What's up guys, welcome back to the Gaming Careers YouTube channel. Today is one of those super exciting days where the OBS developers have released a major update. Version 23 of OBS has just been released today. Version 22 I think came out 5 or 6 months ago now. So as you know, they cram a hell of a lot of features and improvements into these major releases, and we're going to be going through them today. NVIDIA graphics card for streaming. So I imagine that's the feature that you guys care the most about. Especially if it's going to help you streaming, lowering the performance hit on your PC, as well as hopefully increasing the quality. So in this video, we're going to be going through the brand new implementation of the NVENC encoder in OBS, how you can get that set up for your stream to give you the best quality and as little of a performance hit as possible. We're also going to be talking separately about the new NVIDIA RTX graphics cards, because they have a updated NVENC hardware chip on them that gives some performance benefits. But that's separate to the OBS discussion, because the OBS improvements are actually going to work across previous generations of NVIDIA cards, any card that has an NVENC encoder chip built into it. So these are two separate discussions that we'll be covering in this video. And then finally, we'll also be covering all the other improvements that OBS have made in version 23. So to be able to properly explain the new implementation, the complete rework that OBS have done of the NVENC encoder and why you should probably be using it for your streams, you kind of need to understand about how encoders work in OBS. And to start that discussion, we'll talk about X264, which is the CPU encoder that has been in OBS since the very beginning. So the X264 encoder uses the CPU to be able to do the encoding of your video stream, to be able to compress it and make it look as nice as possible before sending it off to Twitch. Now there's a whole range of presets available, but the most common ones in terms of streaming are very fast, faster, fast, and medium. The higher or faster the preset that you use, the less taxing that is going to be on your CPU. And a slower preset will provide better compression, so better quality per file size. The default when you fire up OBS for the first time, and probably if you've been using a nice high frame rate for you to play at, as well as things like able to step below, take some of the workload off the CPU, hopefully freeing up some frame rate and some resources in your computer for things like running your game. NVENC is NVIDIA's encoder. It is a physical section of NVIDIA graphics card that is completely dedicated to just encoding video. So this means that your graphics card can operate normally regardless of whether it is using this NVENC encoder to stream or to record. Now the reason this is good is obviously it is not using your CPU to do the encoding, so that frees up the CPU for running games. Now this NVENC technology isn't completely new. It of course exists on the new 20 series Turing cards, but it also existed in the 10 series Pascal and then the 9, 8 and 7 series Maxwell. In previous versions of OBS, so versions 22 and before, there were 3 main ways of setting up the encoding for your stream. Firstly, using X264 and your CPU to do the encoding. This way, video frames were copied from your GPU's VRAM that was already rendering them for your game and for your monitor across to your system RAM, and these frames would then be sent to your CPU to be encoded at one of the chosen presets, typically very fast, as that was the default setting in OBS. People that were using NVENC in previous versions of OBS, the video frames would be copied from the GPU's VRAM, exactly encoding videos with something similar, and have a lower preset or a slower preset, aka higher quality, because it's not having to try and run the game at the same time, since the game is running on the gaming PC. Obviously, the major drawback of this is that you need 2 PCs. They both need to be relatively high-end. With 2 PCs, you need at least 2 monitors, 2 keyboards, 2 mice, also audio. Imagine this helps quality to 80%, depending on working close to experience that the whole range of 20 series cards have the same NVENC encoder built in. So it doesn't matter if you series cards, is that the whole range of 20 series cards have the same NVENC encoder built in. So it doesn't matter if you're getting a 2060 or a 2080 Ti. That with the new 20 series cards, the NVENC performs better than X264 fast and on par with X264 medium. So this is, a really difficult thing to achieve typically with a 1 PC setup. You would need a horrendously expensive CPU to be able to get anywhere near X264 medium, because it's such a slow encoder. It really does help bump the quality up. Now, just a quick note worth mentioning is that NVIDIA and most other companies, when comparing visual quality, use something called PSNR, which is peak signal to noise ratio, or some sort of similar method. And without getting too technical and starting to recite sections of my university thesis, which was actually in this subject, it's very difficult to assess the quality of a video in terms of PSNR, as the human vision system doesn't assess visual quality in the exact same way. I'll leave a link down in the description below to a Wikipedia article that explains in more detail for those of you that want more info. But for those of you that don't, I just want to say, take these benchmarks as you should from any company.
Games. Just remember, as you make these adjustments, be sure to go back. Particularly exciting news for you. By now you probably know image quality, performance, it's done. First, download the new OBS, which has the new NVIDIA enhancements. Open OBS and go to Settings. Then set your output mode at the top to advanced.
You know what I mean? So if you're not concerned if it's a church service or if it's a business presentation, and you don't care if it's 5 or 10 seconds longer delay, this is going to be perfect. I'm going to ask some of the guys at